Hi, my name is Dan Corsi, and I would like to present to you my case study on parental apathy. First, I would like to identify some of the facts that were presented in this case study. The John F. Kennedy School does not currently have any PTA or PTO groups. However, the school had a parent organization in the past. Number two, the principal does not support substantial engagement from the parents. Number three, the principal used one form of communication, which was a letter to parents sent home with the students as an advertisement for the proposed parent meeting that Mrs. Rose had suggested. And number four, Mrs. Rose, a new member of the leadership team, is concerned with the lack of parental involvement at the school. What you need to know based on the case study is that, number one, parent organizations are a foundation of effective communication between the schools and the parents. Number two, an educational leader promotes student success through collaboration with families and community members. And number three, letters sent home via students likely have poor success rates of getting to the parents. And I wanted to add in here multiple forms of communication utilizing both technology and traditional forms of communication will have the best success rate of getting to the intended audience. Some of the problems identified in this case study: number one, John F. Kennedy School needs organized parental involvement. There have been previous organizations in the past. 8 parents did show up to the Mrs. Rose's proposed meeting they were discussing of having or not having. So evidently there is some interest in involvement with the school from the parents. Number two, the principal needs to embrace parent involvement, which may be the root of the problem. And adding in here, the parents' assessment of the community pulse may be inaccurate. And number three, the principal and leadership staff must demonstrate the proper usage and techniques of communicating with both internal and external publics. The principal must model appropriate communication methods to include both traditional and technological. Here's my proposed plan of action. Step 1. We'll assign a leadership team member as parent involvement coordinator who will chair the committee on parent involvement. This relates to the Interstate School Leaders Licensure Consortium Standard Number 3 related to distributing leadership capacity. Step 2. Solicit input from the faculty and staff on encouraging parent involvement. Step 3. Assess the current school community environment as it relates to parental involvement. Step 4. Create a set of goals and policies to address parental involvement at John F. Kennedy School. Also include plans for prompt implementation, sustainability, and increased methods of communication. Here's my implementation strategy. First, since Mrs. Rose is a new member of the leadership team and has expressed interest in forming a parent organization, I would put her in charge of the Parent Involvement Committee. Mrs. Rose will conduct an internal survey of the school employees as a method to solicit members in joining the committee, as this will be the best way to include employees who expressed a genuine interest in parent involvement. Next, she would have the responsibility of selecting the rest of the committee members under certain guidelines. Must include teachers, support staff, parents, and community leaders. The idea here is to get a heterogeneous committee, not just school staff, but also parents and people from outside the school as well. And the information from this survey will provide ideas to the newly formed committee moving forward. Step 2, my implementation strategy. The Parent Involvement Committee will then be asked to assess the current school community pulse, as it was mentioned in the case study. This assessment should be in the form of a public opinion questionnaire, and the intent is to capture the feelings and desires of all parents and relevant community stakeholders. Key here is that the distribution of this survey must be comprehensive and available in different forms to accommodate all demographics, not to exclude anybody or any group. Information gathered from the parent survey will be useful to the committee in establishing the parent organization and corresponding guidelines that best meet the interests of that community. Based on the results of the parent and employee survey, the committee will be asked to provide staff development training on the importance of effective communication, parent involvement, community support, and awareness of internal-external publics on overall student success, staff morale, and school public relations. Step 3 of the implementation strategy. The Parent Involvement Committee will be charged with the task of creating a set of policies and guidelines for the creation and implementation supporting substantial parent involvement at the school. The plan should be comprehensive, with careful thought given to policies to avoid excluding a particular demographic from participation. The plan must include detailed steps for implementation and a timeline for establishing the new parent organization. And the committee must also create a set of goals for the committee and the parent-teacher organization as a way, not to be self-serving, but as a way to focus on student success, school improvement, and more effective school-community relations. Step 4 of the implementation strategy. The committee will be responsible for establishing, promoting, and managing additional methods of communicating to the internal-external publics. Going a little bit deeper, the committee should establish a school website platform to share news and events with the school community and encourage, require, faculty to create and maintain their own classroom page. This is becoming more common, but the key is that the page is updated regularly, it's current, and parents have access to it. Next, the committee should consider creating a Facebook page and use other forms of social media, as it has become extremely popular way to communicate, especially with the younger demographic, the younger parents that have school-age children. Next, create and maintain a parent email list and phone list for automated dialer calls and email contact lists. And lastly, create forms of communication in other languages common to the school demographic for parents that do not speak or read English. Step 5. Include provisions to sustain the parent organization. A plan should be in place to allow for growth and accommodate for change as to increase the longevity and sustainability of the organization. Include steps to periodically assess the community pulse and allow for continuous improvement in the school community relations. Next, the committee will seek partnerships with local businesses, civic organizations, higher education institutions, and churches. And this part 6 of the implementation strategy will help the school to be a good steward of its own community. Through the help of the parent organization, the school should seek ways to give back to the community, such as adopt a highway, food drive, recycling campaign, etc. Okay, resolutions that promote the success of all students. I began with reinstating the parent organizations at John F. Kennedy School through the Parental Involvement Committee. Increasing parental involvement will encourage them to participate in their child's education, which has shown to be very beneficial to student growth and achievement. Set a goal to decrease parental apathy. In the case of as mentioned in the case study, if only 8 parents show up for a meeting, I suggest you hold the meeting as announced. And it is likely that school improvements will be made through increased parental involvement, whether it's in facilities, courses offered, instruction, field trips, student clubs, etc. These improvements will contribute to the success of all students. A second resolution. Using multiple methods of communication will give parents more access to and knowledge of their child's education. Using a variety of communication methods, parents will have the ability to see what their child should be learning through teacher web pages. This will increase the accountability and give parents insight on what their child is learning. This will allow for reinforcement at home, which we understand that is going to give students a better chance for success in the classroom. We'll also help remove the secretive cloud that covers some schools. Rather, welcome parents with an open door policy, modeling principles of transparency and self-awareness as stated in ISLLC Standard 5. Help keep parents well informed and help build a stronger sense of community, increasing school spirit, instill pride in the students, staff, and parents towards the school. A third resolution, starting with the leadership team and reversing the opinion towards parent involvement of the principal. Through the newly formed Parent Involvement Committee, all faculty and administration will be more aware of the need to effectively communicate with parents. Given enough time for the benefits of parental involvement to convince those not previously on board with involving parents in school matters. And I quote here from the module documents, leadership is second only to teaching among school-based factors influencing learning. And I added this in here, a fourth resolution, just to solidify the success of all students, and that is a quote here that I'm sure we're all familiar with, and that is, a rising tide raises all ships. Realistically, not every parent will take advantage of better communication or increase their involvement, but when student success increases significantly, all students will benefit. Increased student success will likely reduce total student misbehavior, will boost faculty and staff morale, will help improve the school's reputation, and when a school's reputation is high, the community shows more pride towards the school, which would likely increase the amount of parent-community involvement further, strengthening the school's foundation of communication. So it kind of all works together, and it's important to have all those pieces in place. Some of my reflections on the case study, some things that I picked up on that I wanted to share. Right off the bat, using only one method of announcing a parent meeting just was not significant enough. Sending flyers home with the students just isn't as efficient as it can be, and just doesn't cut it. It showed a considerable lack of effort on the school's part. Something else that I picked up on was that I immediately felt that the new member of the leadership team, Mrs. Rose, she could be a champion for change and utilize her desire to increase parental involvement. Another thing that I want to mention here is that the principal has such a negative disposition towards parent and community involvement. I felt here that significant change was going to require a heterogeneous committee working together through distributed leadership function. Next, the John F. Kennedy School previously had a parent organization, so evidently there is some interest in the school in the case of the parents. So I suggested a survey and find out what's out there, what they're interested in, and so on. And lastly, the pulse of the community, as described by the principal, is based on his analysis of parent phone calls and conferences. From my experience, parents contact the school when there's a problem, not to offer congratulatory remarks. This may skew his perception of the opinion of the entire school population. So his assessment of the community pulse is based on negative feedback, so that may not be the most accurate assessment. Some things that I would like to investigate further, I think would help give more insight into the case. Why does the building administrator, principal in this case, have such a negative disposition towards parental and community involvement? By only sending flyers home announcing the parent meeting, was the principal potentially sabotaging the parent response to make Mrs. Rose believe his assessment of the community pulse was correct? Was the principal's desire to cancel the meeting based on poor turnout an attempt to keep Mrs. Rose from engaging with parents? I'm going to stop here as part one. I noticed I'm running short on time, so I will stop here, and I will pick it up with part 2. Stay tuned.